Yeah, guys, I want to remind everybody that this episode is presented by Yahoo Fantasy. Fantasy football is back. Fire up the group chat and get your draft board ready, and buckle up for a season filled with breakouts, busts, and all the overreactions that we live for. It's all going down on Yahoo Fantasy. This year, UCSS is back on Yahoo Fantasy, and you should be too, whether you're a first-timer or a veteran making it your millionth league. Yahoo Fantasy's user interface is my favorite. I love it more than all the other fantasy apps. And to celebrate 28 years of fantasy greatness, Yahoo is dropping 28 big new features over 28 days, giving you more ways to play, more ways to draft, and more ways to win. And it all begins on August 4th. So stay tuned and get started by creating or joining a Yahoo Fantasy Football League at yahoofantasy.com/LockedOnNFL. That's yahoofantasy.com/LockedOnNFL. And let's make this fantasy season the best one yet.
So a few minutes after the Quinshon Judkins news came out yesterday, Adam Schefter popped up on all of our Twitter feeds and said, undrafted free agent wide receiver Isaiah Bond had been no-billed in his sexual assault case going back to Texas. Bond, if you guys remember, was a highly touted prospect coming out of Texas. Most draft analysts had him with a top 100 grade. These sexual assault charges came up about two and a half weeks before the draft. He ends up going undrafted, and then just moments later, Bond put out a statement by himself on social media, thanking the Cleveland Browns, thanking Jimmy Haslam, thanking Andrew Berry, and essentially announced he was signing with the Cleveland Browns. Now, Mary Kay and other reporters have said he is not officially signed, but if you were to read that letter that you see on the screen, I know it's in tiny font and it's really small, he literally calls out the Browns, thanks Mr. Haslam, thanks Andrew Berry for their patience and their understanding with the situation. So all indications are that he will sign with the Browns. G. Bush, I know Bond was a guy you had quite some interest in pre-draft. We had a topic on would you draft him with these concerns, and you were the only one at the time that said, give me the best players on the field, and he would have been one of the best guys in the round if the Browns went, you said third round. But in hindsight now, he's officially been no-billed. That means no charges are coming. Are you a fan of this move?
Look, I always tell people like this. There's a process in the National Football League where they're going to look at your merits on whatever you do off the field. There's a process in the United States of America where they're going to look at the merits of a case and see whether or not they can indict you or bring any charges. Where it was at, they decided not to bring any charges, just like Quinshon Judkins. The NFL has a different burden of proof, and so they'll probably investigate him, look at what happened in the case, and they'll extrapolate and decide whether they're going to give him a suspension or not. In terms of the optics of it, I mean, yeah, it's not. It's kind of. I was just laughing and joking about it because at the end of the day, we want to talk about football. So I try to keep it as lighthearted as possible in a situation where it's kind of serious. But it was almost like the Browns was like, listen. Well, they let Judkins off, so I mean, we might get killed for this for a couple of days. We might as well go ahead and sneak this other joint right under the rug and just had it kill two birds with one stone. Like, let's just go ahead and make a move. And for me, this is just how. And I want to just tell people, the NFL has signified something. Let me just tell y'all something right now. The NFL has signified something that says, if you are looking for us to be your moral compass, this is not the place to be, because we're going to show you that we are in this as to win, and we want the best players. If you didn't convict you, if you ain't going to jail, I'll tell you like this: somebody is going to sign Henry Ruggs. I'm gonna just let y'all know right now. And unfortunately, in the Henry Ruggs situation, somebody lost their life.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? You can't come back from that. So when we watch these things take place, and there's gambling going over here, and then there's domestic violence, I always tell people, and I always try to let them know, listen, guys, this ain't the pantheon in which you want to just get your role models from. This isn't where you want to take your moral stands, because at the end of the day, this is a stone cold business. I look at what happened to Nick Chubb. Nick Chubb ain't never did nothing to nobody. He couldn't play no more in their eyes. He's on to another team. This is just what the thing is. And at the end of the day, Browns made a decision because they have no receivers, and he's fast. He was going to be a mid-round pick. And guess what? They saw the value. They took him.
Jason?
The Browns, Jimmy Haslam has tried to spend his way to a championship 4 years. Can we agree on that?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody spends more. Nobody wants to win more than Jimmy Haslam. But the Browns have a culture problem. Can we agree on that?
Oh, yeah.
This is why. This is why they have a culture problem. Because they keep doing stuff like this. There's a mark against him, against Isaiah. Regardless of what he did or didn't do, there's a mark against him. And if he is innocent, then I feel sorry for him. But the Browns cashed all their chips in on Deshaun, and they got no return on it. The Browns keep selling their credibility, and they keep selling their soul on junk bonds. And this is what you get. So what has been, for all these chances they've taken on guys, what's been the payoff for it? Where's the big benefit been?
Josh Gordon.
What'd you get out of it?
One
year.
great season. Yeah.
1 year. Kareem Hunt. He, for the most part, he kept himself in line after he got here. But did he have a major impact on winning when he was here? Really? Did he?
He helped, but he's not the main reason.
He had a couple decent, like Freddie Kitchens actually did the best job figuring out how to use Nick Chubb and
Yeah,
Kareem
the
Hunt
run
together.
game. The run game was pretty dynamic when he was here. He was, but I tell you, I guess your point is they didn't win no Super Bowl.
Did he impact winning at a high
Yeah,
level?
they didn't win no Super Bowl.
So what have they gotten for all of these chances? There are franchises who have earned the right to take chances on guys with a checkered past. The Browns are not one of them.
Baltimore is one of them.
I mean, yeah, Baltimore. There are the Patriots back when Tom was there. There are franchises who, when they elevate themselves to a certain level, when they win at a certain level, when they act like adults, when they are professionals about how they go about doing their business, you earn the opportunity to take advantage on maybe one or two guys with a checkered past. The Browns just take them all. And what has been the payoff? And I guess I'm a little annoyed because I turned my head on the Deshaun thing against all the allegations against him because I understood why they did it. I've said it 100 times. They needed a franchise quarterback. They didn't think the one they had was good enough. They saw an opportunity to go out and get a guy who never becomes available, and they said, we're going to go for it. And they gave up the house, the farm, the cars. They gave up all of it, and it blew up in their face. And when you sell your soul so many times, you get nothing to show for it. It's like, why are we doing this? Why? And you put your fans in a terrible position of having to choose, and they don't care. They don't care. If they cared, I'm pro-dome. I think the dome's a great idea. D. Haslam came out and said, we want to do what's in the best interest of the fans. If you want to do what's in the best interest of the fans, why didn't you put it on the ballot? Why didn't you give the fans a voice in this? Because you knew it was going to fail, and you did it anyway. And that's the problem I have. That's the frustration that I have with it, is they keep doing this over and over and over. This is why they have a culture problem, because they keep taking chances on guys like this and they never get the payoff for it because they are not an organization that is built or able to withstand it. And so they just keep doing this over and over and over again. Had they hit on some of these receivers that they've drafted and that they've traded for over the years, they wouldn't have to do this. But because they keep missing in the draft, they have to take chances like this. And I don't put this on Barry. This is Jimmy Haslam. This is your organization. What are you going to stand for? What are you going to stand for? You've already shown what you stood for. And by the way, all the women who work for you, you've now put them in another uncomfortable position. And there's a lot of them. And now they have to go through this all over again.
I have a couple thoughts on this, and I'm not sure I go as far as you or as opposite end as G. I look at it as if the Browns were worried about losing fans due to them signing players with questionable pasts, anyone who hadn't left after Deshaun Watson, they're here forever. They're not leaving. Nothing's going to change that. So I use the analogy before the show. If you're going to cheat on your diet, don't have a munchkin.
Yeah.
Go to Mitchell's and get a damn ice cream.
Go all the
cake.
way in.
Don't have a little nibble of a piece of pizza. Eat the whole damn pie. If you're okay as an organization with the allegations from Deshaun and what happened with Mike Hall and even before with Malik McDowell and some of the other guys, Perrion Winfrey, all these characters that have had issues and run-ins, domestic violence, domestic assault, all that stuff, then Isaiah Bond's not changing anyone's opinion. An undrafted free agent who I don't even know all the details of the case. I'm not going to pretend to know. Got no build in a situation like that. They're just, at this point, they're just saying, screw it, we need players. What cures all that? Winning. If this guy can turn into a good player, Everyone will forget the past. My issue more with anything else is I don't think Isaiah Bond's that good, guys. I know he had a top 100-ish draft grade, but this was the guy that after Alabama lost to Michigan in the college football playoff 2 years ago, asked Nick Saban for a raise the day after that game. And you know what Nick Saban did 3 days later? Retired. He never named Isaiah Bond as the player that led him to say, this just isn't for me anymore, but you could add the pieces together. I'm not sure if it's exactly that plus that, 1 + 1 = 2, but it certainly doesn't help. He went to Texas, expected to be, he was one of the top transfers in the entire country. He was their third receiver. He was fine. He put up decent numbers. He's fast as hell. Ran a 4.39 40. Like,
Check.
Dude could run. But he's got questionable hands. Not a great catch radius. He's a little undersized. I didn't love him as a prospect. I don't necessarily love taking the flyer on this, but I also understand why the Browns are doing it because they're just throwing their hands up and saying, we've already dipped our toes in.
That's what I said after Deshaun. That's exactly what I said. I understand why they did it because they didn't have a quarterback that they believed in, and where did it get them?
I look at it like this. I guess I'm a little more cynical at this point. Like, there is no – I tell this to the people all the time. Nowadays, where we are in society, we are entrenched in whatever tribe we are in. It don't matter. It goes down the line. When you put colors on and jerseys on, it is, and I understand what Jason's saying because this becomes your identity. That's why people get upset because they're saying, I don't morally agree with that, but you're doing something that is opposite of what I believe in. But when I put the Browns colors on, I believe this is me. This is my identity. It's part of my collective group, how we think, our ideology. But at this point, I think that the NFL and business owners in exactly what they are, they've come up with and understand that it doesn't matter if that is your ideology and that is your new religion and you will support your team through come hell or high water. They came up and finally realized that it doesn't matter where the names go. The names come, they come and go. But the colors and the city and where you at, it stays forever. Yep. So everything is a short-term answer. So if they say, okay, we might take a couple hits in the summertime, but guess what? When these games come on, how many packages is they going to drop? How many jerseys is we not going to sell? Right? We got like they're not. We are who we are. Like, yeah, we miss Nick Chubb and we miss other people, but guess what? They made the decision that this is a business, and more than anything, we appeal to people's need, want, and willingness to win at all costs. And that is the calculus.
If Isaiah Bond goes out and becomes a 1,000-yard receiver and a legitimate weapon for the Browns, no one is going to care what happened in his pre-draft process.
That's exactly right. It's exactly what we just talked about with Deshaun 10 minutes ago, 15 minutes ago.
And if he doesn't, and he doesn't pan out and never turns into a player, it's going to be another black mark on the Browns front. And I'm not putting it just on Barry. It's on the entire front office. Right. Ownership on down to the lowest person in the front office. Another black mark on a guy that they tried and took a swing on and frankly missed. And then we could go back and say, was the juice really worth the squeeze when we first made the move? And so far, to your point earlier, Jason, they haven't hit on any of these guys.
Perrion Winfrey, Malik McDowell, Deshaun.
Mike Hall is too early to
Hall. Yeah.
Quinshon Judkins, at this point, he could turn out to be really good, but there's no return from that yet either.
Even with Judkins and Hall, they were here before. I put them in a separate category because they had drafted them and then they get in trouble and whatever. When you actively pursue guys who have these marks against them.
But Hall had them coming out of college. Judkins had the clean slate.
He had a sketchy past.
Yeah.
But the one that, the incident that we all are referring to from last year, at least he was already in the building. Yeah, you took a chance on him, but nothing in his past had escalated to the level of what we saw wind up in court last year. And same thing with Judkins, where you take the guy and then this happens. Okay, well, now what do? He's already in the building. When you pursue the guys who have these marks against them and you invite them in and you don't get a return on that, what are we doing here? And they keep doing it over and over and over again.
You know what's crazy before we move on? If on March 15th, a month before the draft, I told any Browns fan that by the end of the draft, the Browns were going to end up with Mason Graham, Shedeur Sanders, Quinshon Judkins, Isaiah Bond, Carson Schlesinger, Harold Fannin, and Dylan Sampson, we would have said absolute home run, slam dunk, hole-in-one. You make all the stupid sports analogies you want that aren't football, touchdown.
Yeah.
That is a grand win. And I even mentioned the quarterback they took before Shedeur Sanders, by the way. how they got there is certainly a lot different than how.
I love their draft. Like we did the regrade the draft. After the Judkins thing, my grade didn't change. I thought it was a great draft.
Yeah.
I just think this is completely unnecessary. Yes, their receiver room is lacking. That's your own fault because you can't draft and you can't develop.
And by the way, Deontay Johnson apparently has fallen off a cliff in the last 2 weeks of camp and is in, I think, legit in jeopardy of not making this roster. So.
Hey, listen, man. I will say this: there's always if those guys turn out to be good,
it don't matter.
It's funny. It could go from the worst to people saying this is the draft that got people extensions. Mm-hmm. It's crazy. I've never seen that much give between. It's fascinating. We'll see.